Hello, I'm Heather.
And I'm Ryan.
Welcome to the podcast. It's game night, it's sibling rivalry, it's a walk down memory lane, but most importantly, it's politics free.
Guaranteed.
Welcome to round 7 of Your Worst Nightmare. Here's how it works. We have a set of cards. On each one is written a nightmare.
That Heather can't place.
We'll pick 4 cards. And Ryan will have to place them in the correct order according to what he thinks my worst nightmare is. Then we'll flip it around, and it'll be my turn.
Which Heather will trip and fall on her face.
Whoever scores the most points wins the ever-coveted Gloating Rights Trophy.
I'm just getting the preemptive gloats in.
Once again, you missed this. It's one line. We've been doing this for almost 20 episodes until we play again. And by the way...
Until we play again! I was sitting there practicing it silently while you were talking before, and then I started egging you on and totally forgot I had to do it. I love it. Until we play again.
Perfect. Listen, I've got great news. The current running score is Ryan, 30, and Heather, 24.
Ooh, what?
I actually went back through... and I was missing a point. I went back through and I logged in the log all our games we've played and all the episodes, and I've been shortchanging myself a point, although some might call it a pity point, but I just say I was shortchanging myself a point.
Okay.
Ryan, are you ready for your first cards?
I am ready.
They are ants crawling on you, becoming sad, becoming possessed, bad poetry. That's ants crawling on you, becoming sad, becoming possessed, bad poetry.
All right.
What's my order?
Number 4 is becoming possessed.
Incorrect.
What? Okay, well, that's a fucking curveball, so let me just go to number 3. Now I'm not even so sure about my order at all. Becoming sad.
Incorrect.
Number 2.
Uh-huh.
Bad poetry.
Correct.
Oh, yes! And number 1, ants crawling on you.
That is correct. You scored 2 entire points. You had the becoming sad and becoming possessed reversed.
Heather, do you believe that you can be possessed?
No, I do not.
So then why isn't that 4? You can become sad, Heather, but you cannot become possessed.
Listen,
No.
I'm not saying that I can't become possessed.
Oh my God.
It's not totally out of the realm of possibility, but I am so seldomly sad that it just was number 4 to me. It was just number 4 to me. I'm sorry.
You know, we're sitting there putting like witches and the devil and like all the things in 4th place that don't frickin' exist. And you're like, guess what? Curveball time.
Yeah, I guess so, because as I was looking at that, I was like, oh, I put sad 4th.
I hate you, Heather.
I surprised myself.
Wow.
You're going to love this.
Mm-hmm.
I'll shout out my friend Cindy from the True Hauntings and Scary Stories podcast. We do a monthly YouTube video called Skeptical Believers, where we go over paranormal cases, but with a skeptical eye, even though we're both believers. Mm-hmm. And we covered the case of the girl, Annalise Michel, who was the inspiration behind the Poltergeist movies. And we did a whole deep dive research on her and both concluded that she had not been possessed by a demon. And we were 10 out of 10 skeptics.
Yeah.
Which makes this hurt even more for you. So let's continue.
Fucking hate you. All right. Are you ready for your cards, Heather? I hope you crash and burn.
I'm ready. And I will crash and burn. This one was really hard. I don't think I got it.
All right. Here are your cards. Being mugged. Being hit by a car. Being fired. Being dumped. That's being mugged. Being hit by a car. Being fired. And being dumped.
All right. Well, in the number 4 spot, I put being mugged.
Incorrect.
Number 3, being hit by a car.
Incorrect.
Number 2, being dumped.
Incorrect.
Number 1, being fired.
Incorrect. And here's where I'm going to sound like a dirtbag.
Okay.
I put being hit by a car as number 4 because I constantly find myself hoping to get hit by a car so I can get a payday.
Uh-huh.
Specifically on the campus of OHSU, because all the employees there drive much faster than the posted speed limit of 20 miles per hour. I swear to God, they drive like 30 miles per hour through that parking lot. And I am just hoping that one day one of their employees just creams me.
Ryan.
While I'm minding my own business, and I'm like, oh yeah, OHSU, you're gonna pay me for pain and suffering and all my medical bills.
Careful what you wish for, bro. It might come true.
Number 4 I put is being hit by a car.
Excellent.
Number 3, being fired.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, being mugged. And number 1, being dumped. Because I would rather be mugged than lose my wife.
Okay.
Because whatever the mugger takes from me, I can replace. I can't replace my wife. I'm so glad you crashed and burned. Because I crashed and burned.
You didn't crash and burn. You got 2.
That's a crash and burn. Anything less than 3 is a crash and burn for me.
Oh, aren't we full of ourselves? Here's your next cards. Get ready for it.
Okay.
Being cheated on. Being buried alive. Being attacked by bats. Blocked numbers. That's being cheated on. Being buried alive. Being attacked by bats. Blocked numbers.
Okay.
Hit me with your best shot.
Number 4.
Mm-hmm.
Blocked numbers.
Correct.
Number 3. Being attacked by bats.
Correct. God damn it.
Number 2. Being cheated on.
Correct.
And number 1. Being buried alive.
I hate you. I hate this game. I better win the next game. This game sucks. 4 for Ryan. All right, let's just go have me lose and get 0 in this whole episode.
Okay. I'm
Hit me with my
rooting
last
for you,
cards.
Heather. Here you go.
No, you're not, you bastard.
Yes, I am. I'm rooting for you to get 0 on this. I'm with you. Let's do this. All right, here we go. Are you ready for your cards?
Yes.
Losing your looks, alligators, robots replacing workforce, accordions. That's losing your looks, alligators, robots replacing the workforce, and accordions.
Okay. Number 4, losing your looks.
Correct.
Number 3, accordions.
Correct.
Number 2, robots replacing workforce.
Incorrect.
You fucking asshole. So that's your number 1 then. Robots replacing workforce would be your number 1.
Yes.
Followed by alligators in the number 2 spot.
Correct.
Good God. Well, that means you have 36 and I have 26. Your lead has increased.
Well done, Heather. I thought you were going to nail that one.
I thought I was too. I've only gotten all 4 one time, I think, in 7 rounds.
Your whole thing about technology being like your number 1, like, that's me with robots replacing the workforce.
I could see that. Like if they just started having robot welders, you'd be done for.
Which they have. They have robot welders, but they just don't have robot. Okay, we can't get into it. We can't get into it.
All right. True enough.
It's a very heated topic for me.
Okay. All right. Well, we don't want to trigger you. Robots will replace you in the workforce. Let's move on. So normally we dive into research inspired by this week's game, but long story, that did not happen.
Oh.
So to make up for it, I have additional stories inspired by today's episode.
Ooh.
And of course, I got those stories from Reddit.
Hell yeah, you did.
First, a couple of being dumped stories because, hey, that's fun. From Fisherman89. After having talked to this girl for about 6 months and never having sex that whole time, we finally get down to it one night. In the middle of it, she looks at me and says, "You know I don't care about you, right?" That was the only time I've ever stopped in the middle and left, and I picked this one because I love the comment that somebody left here from Dog Eyebrows. Similar occurrence. Quote, "You know this doesn't mean anything, right?" Went in anyway, cried to myself when I got home. Edit. Fuck you, Trisha. All right, from a deleted one. Dated for 4 years. We went to the beach with my family that weekend and all drove in the same car. Me and him rode in the back seat on the way home, and I fell asleep on his shoulder. I woke up from a text from him saying he was dumping me. So not only did we treat this guy to a free vacation, he had the audacity to dump me while I was asleep through a text in front of my parents while we were all trapped in a car for the next 3 hours. Looking back, it was hilarious, but I definitely didn't think so at the time.
That is terrible.
That needs to be in a movie script somewhere.
It does.
That guy's horrible. Horrible.
Agreed.
All right. And now I just have a bunch of insect horror stories, and I have some of my own, and I'm sure you have some of yours. Let's start with Spoons the Night. I was 11-ish and sleeping on the top bunk of a bunk bed in a basement. I woke up in the middle of the night with a spider half the size of a dinner plate on the ceiling just inches from my face. As I went to roll over to get out of the bed, it dropped onto me and I nearly spontaneously combusted. My roll out of bed turned into a swan dive. I have arachnophobia to this day. Yeah, I think I would too.
I've got a couple cockroach stories.
Go for it. Knock me out.
It was the middle of summer. I was in the dining hall, and I was sitting down enjoying my meal, and I was wearing shorts that day because it was the middle of summer. And I could feel sweat dripping down my leg. And I reached down to brush the sweat away, and it stopped dripping, and I went back to eating my meal, and I could feel that sweat dripping down my leg again. I was like, gosh, I am so sweaty. And I rubbed the sweat away, and I go back to eat my meal, and all of a sudden that sweat is now rolling up my leg. And I was like, gosh, that's weird. And I reached down to wipe the uphill sweat away, and all of a sudden that sweat was now rolling up my arm, and I was like, I don't think that's sweat. And I pull my hand out from under the table, and there's this giant cockroach the size of my palm on my hand, and I said, oh, hell no! And I threw the cockroach across the dining hall. I have no idea
Please
where
tell
it
me
landed.
it landed in someone's food.
I have
Did it
no
land
idea.
in someone's food?
I didn't care. I was done eating. I got up, I bust my dishes, and I was done. That's my cockroach story. I have one more.
Please, tell me another cockroach story. Dying to hear it.
One sunny morning, I feel the nice, warmth of the sun on my face. And I woke up so peacefully. And I was like, oh, gosh, it's a beautiful day. And I kind of open up my eyes. And I see these two eyeballs staring back at me on my pillow. Just chilling right there looking at me. And I thought, what the fuck is that? And I wake up a little bit more, and all of a sudden I realize, oh my God, it's a cockroach. And I said, oh fuck! And I flung it across the room, landed on somebody else's bed, and we're all up freaking out because there's this cockroach running around the room, and we're all stomping trying to kill it. And eventually someone killed it. But I woke up to it in my face. And someone woke up to it on their body, I'm sure. It was hilarious.
So somebody at one point told me or I read somewhere, hey, when you kill a cockroach, it lets off this smell. And so all the other cockroaches are like, somebody died. We better procreate.
Oh, God damn it.
So right after I heard that, I was working in LA, I encounter a cockroach in the office. And I'm like,
don't kill
I stick
it.
a cup over it. I know, I was like, I'm not killing you. Slip a paper under, taped the paper to the cup. And I walked out and threw it in the dumpster. I was there. I was like, still
Genius.
alive.
Because then when
Still
it dies at the dump, and then they'll just procreate at the dump. Good call, Heather.
Thank you.
Genius.
Yeah, I don't even feel bad about being cruel to cockroaches at all.
Neither do I.
Another cockroach I killed from a distance. I was working at a desk, and I had this like stack of paper that was still in a ream of paper. That's what I had, still in the ream, like not loose leaf. And I was just like, looked up, and across the room was this massive roach. I was like, I don't like it. This was before I heard that if you kill the roach, the roaches will procreate. So I lifted up the ream and I lobbed it across the room, and it hit the cockroach dead on, skid across the floor, which was a tile floor, dragging cockroach guts behind it. And then it was the end of the day, so I left it there and went home.
I was going to say, and then I opened up the ream of paper and I loaded the printer with the cockroach guts.
I do not to this day know who cleaned it up. Nobody, the next day it was cleaned up. Nobody was like, who killed a cockroach and left it here? Nobody ever brought it up. So
someone was like, I understand. I understand. I'll take care of this for you, whoever you are.
They were. That's hilarious. All right, let's see here. It was dark from Baggica Baggy. It was dark. My partner and I were watching a movie. I wanted a snack. I went to the cupboard, grabbed an open packet of Lamingtons, which I had to look up. It's a little cake with a coating of chocolate, then a coating of coconut. It's Australian. I sat back down and proceeded to eat one. My mouth felt kind of spicy, and the little coconut bits seemed to be moving. I ran to the sink to spit it out while my partner turned the lights on. Ants. I accidentally ate a shitload of ants. Blah, 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 blah.
I'm glad that it was ants, not a cockroach, and it's Australia, so it could have been a lot worse.
Yeah, it could have been like a whole snake. I don't know. They have a lot of huge stuff there. On the plus side, lamingtons sound delicious.
Yes, they do.
When they don't have ants on them. Let's see here. Anxious Nobody. My younger brother collects all sorts of bugs. One day we found a black widow on our front porch that seemed close to dying. My dad knows I am scared of bugs, and for some reason we had the spider in a Tupperware container with the lid on. I have really thick hair, and my mom had braided it the night before, so it was really curly and puffy, I guess because she took it out of the braids. My dad walked into the room with my little brother and threw a Tupperware container at me with the lid off. I, thinking it had the spider in it, proceeded to have my first panic attack. Imagine you have thick, curly hair, and you think there's a friggin' black widow in it. I blacked out. But from what my mom told me, I was gasping for breath and heaving for a good few minutes. Turns out, he had thrown an empty container at me. They were really apologetic, but that feeling of pure terror and fear is something I will never forget. And the comment in response to this from Duplex Fields, dads, ensuring the fortitude and reflexes of the next generation since 10,000 BC. Okay, I got one more of these from Coke 416. Was on vacation once, laying in bed on my side, and a fly flew into my ear. Out of reflex, I put my finger into my ear trying to get it out, but instead, pushing it in. Being like 10 years old, I went fucking mental, screaming and crying the whole fit. I could feel it walking, moving, trying to fly, and even trying to push its way out, with it getting worse every second as it was panicking as much as I was. So there I am, stuck with my new co-pilot, going wild when my mother finally comes to see what's going on. I tried explaining to her that there is a fly in my ear and that it's still moving and living. You probably couldn't make out a single word from what I said, as I was so overwhelmed by the situation. Finally, my dad came, and he told me that he has had bugs in his ear before, and that they'd come out all on their own after a while, telling me not to worry and try to ignore it or endure it until it doesn't have any more air. Here's another dad's. Can I tell you, like, I have sprained an ankle, broke a rib, and Dad has been like, you'll be fine. No doctor, like, nothing.
Really?
I guess it's because my breaks, the bones didn't, like, stick out of my skin. You couldn't really see that it was broken from the outside, so it was like, just limp it off.
Yeah.
Whereas you had more dramatic, like, very obviously broken bone breaks, as I recall.
No.
No? Okay, you're the fucking favorite. Whatever. Listen, let's do the rest of the story.
Oh, there's more to the story. Okay. I was going to delve into that, but go ahead.
I do not know how I fell asleep that night, but I do remember that some days after this horrifying invasion of my body, I suddenly felt something coming out of my ear. It was the fly, mummified in my earwax.
That is disgusting.
Yummy.
After it laid eggs, and now I have maggots in my ear canal.
Well, at least it didn't go on.
I was going to say, I woke up one night with a crazy sore ear. Like, it felt like if I laid on my side, it felt like there was a rock in my ear. It was, like, so painful. It just felt like someone was jamming a rock in there. But if I laid down on the other ear, it was just this, like, crazy pain, but not feeling like someone was jamming a rock in there. So it's the middle of the night, going to Mom and Dad's room, and I wake Dad up to tell him, like, and I'm crying because I'm in a lot of pain. I'm telling, like, my ear hurts. So Dad tries home remedies to alleviate the pain. And the pain is getting worse, and Dad is getting irritated. Eventually, after continuing to try home remedies to resolve the issue, Mom says, you know what? I think you should take him to the hospital. And Dad was like, gets in the car, and we're driving to the hospital, and he's just like, just fuming the entire way to the hospital. Waste of money. Go to the hospital for no reason. And we finally get to the hospital.
That is, by the way, spot on impression. Please continue.
So we get to the hospital. They take a look at my ear, and I have an infected eardrum. And so they had to prescribe me antibiotics and whatever, what have you, drops, and I had to take medication, the whole 9 yards. And Dad was very apologetic and apologized profusely to me for the way he conducted himself.
Yeah, I just, Dad, he really didn't like taking us to, I guess it was expensive,
I'm
it
sure
was expensive.
it was.
He didn't want to spend money on it. And I literally, when I sprained my ankle, I bet you if I x-rayed this, there's some old scar tissue on the bone there because I couldn't walk on it. I just at one point it was so painful, I just got down and crawled down the hallway and lifted my foot up so I wasn't having any pressure on it.
Yeah.
It was like that for like a few days, and then I could walk on it again. And then the time I broke my rib, I definitely did something to my rib because I still have pain in that rib to this day.
Oh, wow.
But he's like, I mean, not constant, but if I just breathe right, well, I'll get a shooting pain in that rib sometimes, which I always called a breathing cramp. And then I found out other people do not occasionally have a shooting pain in their rib when they take a deep breath. So you learn something new every day.
Apparently.
But at the time, he was like, I'm not taking you to the doctor. They were not going to do anything for it anyway.
Well, yeah,
which I just assumed was true. But they might have done an x-ray. They might have done something. I don't know.
For a broken rib, if it's a fractured rib, I don't really think that there's anything that they can do other than, just take it easy. Here's some pain meds.
Yeah, I guess.
I will say I did sprain my ankle very badly one time playing Little League. And I was sliding into third base, which I will have you know that ball that I hit should have been counted as a home run. And I'm still sour to that to this day. Okay? So listen. This was at Chapman Field, where they don't have a fence around the field, but there's an embankment that goes down and then goes into the, quote, Baby Ruth field, which I assume is just the high school field, but they called it the Baby Ruth field. And I had never hit in a home run before in my life. I could never really get it. Like, I could get it out into the outfield, but that was about as far as I could hit it. But this one time, I connected with that ball, and it flew over the embankment and into the Baby Ruth field. And I was like, home run. And I'm sitting there, I'm jogging the bases because I just hit a home run. Well, that kid in the outfield ran down into the Baby Ruth field, picked up the ball, and threw it. It had to have been so far, but he threw it straight to third base, and I'm rounding two, and I see that ball coming. I was like, oh shit, they're going to try and tag me out over this. And so I start sprinting, he catches it, and then I slid into third, and he tagged me out, but my foot caught that third base, and my ankle rolled up, and I just heard this pop, and it was immediately swollen. And I was freaking out, and Dad was just as mad about this as me. He was like, that should have been a home run. Because if there was a fence around that field, it would have been a home run. But because the person could run down and get it, like, I guess it doesn't count as a home run. I don't know. Anyway.
Well, I agree. That should have been a home run. F that.
I agree.
F that.
But yeah, it was like immediately like black and swollen and puffed up, and Dad took me home, and Mom looked at it, and she's like, you just sprained it, iced it, and that was it, you know? And I mean, it more than likely was just a sprain, because I mean, it healed up as a sprain. But then when I broke my hand, which mind you, I broke my hand as I was bragging how I never had broken a bone in my body before, and immediately tripped and landed on my hand, and like my whole hand bent back, and like the fingers touched the forearm. And I was freaking out, and I was with Omar, and Omar took off and went and found Dad. And Dad can't, like, my hand was so fat. Dad's like, yeah, we need to take you to the hospital for this one.
He like finally acquiesces to a hospital.
Yeah.
I think we'd have to have her head like neck half severed, and he'd be like, no, okay, fine, we'll go. But God, it's going to be, I can't believe you did this. Unbelievable. We're going to have to pay for this. Your neck's bleeding out of the jugular all over the car. Stop getting blood all over the car. No, I'm kidding. He's not that bad. That was a massive exaggeration. Look, I only have one story going back to insects. So this one day, as the spring started settling in and the snow was melting, I saw a couple of tiny ants in the kitchen. And so I said to my husband, we need to get some of those ant trap things. Not ant traps, but they're little like sugar with poison in it, and they eat it and they take it back to the hive or whatever.
They get immune to it and come back for more. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Continue.
Well, anyway, what happened was, he's like, here, set them out. And I just willy-nilly put them anywhere. Never done it before. I was like, I'll put one here and here and one here and one here. Great. I happened to wake up in the middle of the night that night to go to the bathroom, which is on the other side of the kitchen. So I walk downstairs, and I'm standing in the doorway of the kitchen, and line after line, row after row of these massive ants, they weren't the little tiny ones I'd seen. They were like these big fat ants, are marching to and from every one of the poison things that I had set out.
Oh, wow.
In like perfect lines. Like there was a symmetry to it and shape. And I just stood there looking at it, and I thought, well, they'll be dead by morning. Stepped over the lines, went to the bathroom, stepped back over them, and went to bed. I was not going to deal with that. All right. Last thing, question of the week. What sound will instantly melt your heart?
A child's laughter.
Oh, that's what I wrote, but specifically the sound of one of my kids just belly laughing.
Yes.
From the first time I heard it until the last time, every single time, I feel it like really, like I feel a physical reaction in my body of happiness and joy to hear it.
Chloe used to have the best belly laugh. I say used to, because she doesn't belly laugh like she used to belly laugh.
Oh.
But when she was like younger than 5, I think like into 6. But anyway, she just had the most adorable belly laugh. And it was just one of those things where it made you feel so good, like just exactly what you described.
Yeah.
But it's just, I mean, it still makes me feel good when I hear the kids laugh, but they just don't have belly laughs anymore.
Well, your kids are teenagers now. Oh my God, does it go away?
Know.
Don't let it go away. No.
I'm sure, like they have nice hearty laughs, like when something's really funny, and every now and again I'll do something funny that I get a nice hearty laugh out of them, and it's always a good feeling.
Yeah.
For show.
Okay. Good stuff. Well, there you have it. That's our episode for this week. We want to hear your stories. Always. You can email us at thepoliticsfreepodcast@outlook.com. Shoot us up. Any story that you were reminded of listening to, we want to hear it. We want to share it on the podcast. You can also leave a voicemail if you're brave enough. It doesn't matter what you sound like. We will not make fun of you. Send us voicemails. Send us emails. We want to know your stories. Share the podcast. You guys have been definitely coming to bat for us. We're growing. More and more people are listening. Just week after week so far, we've had more and more people listen. So, hey.
Awesome.
Keep sharing. Thank you so much for doing that. Last but not least, if you would like to play the game that we played in this episode, you can go to pressmantoy.com and search Your Worst Nightmare, or go to the link in the description in the show notes of this episode, and you can go right to the product on their website. And we'll wrap it up with free advice. If you have ants, don't just set your traps anywhere. Do a little research and find out how you should properly do it.
This is a good one.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Until we play again.